Because I'll tell you what, the day before, the house would have burned down or something. Somebody was gonna, some shit was gonna go down.
Might have gone that way. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm an intuitive coach and mentor,
And I'm Louisa. I'm an awakening coach and energy healer.
and we're your spiritual besties.
We're just everyday women having an extraordinary human experience.
We've both been led down the path of amazing discoveries through the power of spirituality.
So, we're here to share our experiences as we dive deep into all things sacred.
Our hope is that we can contribute to the collective conversation to help you feel less alone and more confident as you walk the path to becoming more connected with the universe.
We'd love for you to join us each week as we share our discoveries and navigate this journey together. It's funny that your dog was doing that because my dog has been extra super lovey-dovey, and she's a golden doodle. But I'm going to tell you that for myself, I went out not last night, but the night before. So it was already a full moon, and I sat down, I did my journaling, I did some moon water, which is this ritual where I take the full cup of water and I have it sit under the moon for an hour under the moonlight. And then what I do is I sit down and I journal. So for this full moon, what I did was like everything that I wanted to let go of. And I woke up yesterday and I'm in a different, I don't know what happened.
Like a shift.
Completely felt it from like the beginning of the day. And I'll tell you what, to the extent that last night in my personal life, everything has been very chaotic, very, very chaotic. And it just has not stopped. And the day before was a really, 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 really rough day, an extremely rough day. And so when I got home last night and somebody was like, I want to have a conversation with you, I was like, I know I can't handle it. I was like, I know I ain't got this. The conversation was like, you know, when things couldn't go south as they can possibly go, it was 100% that conversation. And again, going into it, I was like, can I even handle anymore? And you know what the most beautiful thing was? The day had already started where I already felt different. I already felt like something shifted. But on my way home, I just cried. And what I was crying over was releasing the same things that I had the night before written down to release. And then I drank my moon water in honor of all of that being released from my energy. So it was so amazing because the way that I handled that conversation last night, I literally am still patting myself in the back. And it was just like a confirmation of the shift for me. It was like, yes, I am in a completely different space. Because I'll tell you what, the day before, the house would have burned down or something. Somebody was gonna, some shit was gonna go down.
Might have gone that way.
It was really amazing. And I contributed to the full moon so much just because I'm so affected by the full moon. And I know a lot of us are, whether we're aware of it or not. It's totally related to the shift that I felt where it was like, just let go of the things that are no longer serving you. And for me, mentally, I had let go of most of it. Even in the physical world, I had let go of a lot of it. But there was this little part of emotion that was still attached. And I was like, why can't I let this go? So that's why I woke up in the middle of the night and did my moonlight ritual, because I was like, I don't understand why I can't let this little last part go. So yeah, the full moon energy absolutely helped me and brought me to this other place, this amazing shift that I'm totally loving.
That's awesome. Aside from my dog howling at me and my kids just being like, it always happens this way. Like in the evening, getting ready for bed, the kids are just on another level energy wise. They'll just be nuts. It's the three younger ones. They'll just be literally just like running around chasing each other, making up some game about how they have to like chase each other around after bath time. And I'm like, this is not the time where you need to be chasing each other around. it's bedtime. Calm down and go to bed. Stop running around. And then I don't even know. It's like they turn into these like feral children during this period of time. And I was just saying it to my husband the other day because this will happen, right? And then I'm like, what is going on? And then it's like, oh, full moon, like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time, full
Yeah.
moon.
Yeah.
Of course, this is happening, but I never realize it. I'm never prepared for it. I'm never like,
Same.
okay, this is the
Same.
full moon. This is what's going to happen again. Like, never. Every time it's like, why are you guys insane? And then I'm like, okay, that's why. But I do feel like for me, it has been I've spent a lot of time on letting go, a lot of time, but I've really felt this pull toward being embodiment. Like that's been my thing. And so I've focused a lot during this full moon on more of the embodying and integrating the things that I know already, but I just need to integrate them and truly be them. And it was interesting. My first client that I talked to today, I was just talking to her about my morning, and she's like, "You just seem so like refreshed and glowy today." Like, that's how I
Yes.
feel. Like that is totally how I'm feeling today, is that renewed vibe. And I think that was part of my full moon transition there. But I think this also relates to something that we talked about couple episodes ago about the new paradigm and the paradigm shift. Actually, I was listening to Jenna Zoe's podcast this morning, and she was talking about this paradigm shift again, because she talks about it a lot. But I feel like every time she talks about it, I get like a new little piece that I'm like, oh yes, that. And today it was all about the fact that part of this shift is moving from sort of this like linear way of time flowing and time being and change happening to more of like a quantum way of like moving through time and space. And it totally makes sense because I think that that is what we've been talking about a lot and seeing is this ability, as long as you are on this journey and following your path, this ability to start making leaps that maybe wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago for us. But now you can shift so quickly as long as you're in that right vibration and you're really tuned in that these shifts can happen kind of overnight. And I think that it's funny because we've talked about not only those quick shifts that we've seen, but also, sometimes it's still like back and forth drama for a couple weeks before we ever kind of like slowly move into this new phase. But I think it's just that now, as long as we're open to it and are there for it, we're going to be able to make some like pretty quick shifts like that. And where we're able to just drop things overnight or expand in a certain way, kind of overnight or over a couple of days versus having to take weeks every time or months or whatever to do these things. And so that was something that I had never heard before related to this paradigm shift, but I'm like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense. And it makes sense as to why there's so much more conversation around quantum physics, the quantum field, quantum leaps, like this whole idea of the space-time continuum that doesn't really necessarily exist in the way that we all thought it did or have been made to believe that it does throughout our history. To me, it's so interesting the way that like the science just kind of like lines up because these discoveries have been more recent. I mean, when we're talking about the history of ever, they've been more recent and also just kind of coming into the collective awareness more. So I feel like it's kind of lining up and it all makes so much more sense when you can pull these pieces of it together.
And you're so right, because that's exactly what it felt like for me, honestly. Exactly as you just described. It was like it's this quantum leap. Like emotionally would have taken me, I don't know how long to recover from that and to be in like the space that I am today. It would have just been so painful and all of this and all of that. But it was kind of like, well, That's not for me. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like waking up in a different space. It was like I'm in a completely different place. I'm in a completely, I mean, everything around me looks the same. It's all the same people around me. I'm in the same house. But the feeling that I felt was exactly that. And that's what I believe it was. I believe it was like a quantum leap. I think it was a leap that would have otherwise, if I wasn't in tune with myself and if I wasn't aware of what was going on, that I probably wouldn't have even taken the time to honor and to be grateful for, which is what I am, right? Because it allows me to keep it moving and move in the direction that I want to move next and just continuing to follow my guidance
Mhm.
and all of that. So it's funny in terms of the science because for so many years everybody can't see it. We don't really know if it aligns with the way that spirituality says that it is, etc. And that's totally like an angel wing behind you when you moved. Did you just see that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, when you moved there was an angel wing right here on your neck. But I do love that we are finally, as a collective, getting to a place where it is more in the collective awareness and
Mhm.
where we are starting to kind of see how the science that has been around for millennia just aligns so much with the universe's truth, essentially, right?
Mhm.
Because I do think that what that's doing is creating the shift. Also, I believe it's, also ensuring that as many people come and make the shift. And one of the things that I've learned in the last couple of days in my personal life is that even people who don't necessarily have a spiritual or religious background or like belief
Mhm.
system, even those people are being affected and seeing this shift and feeling it. And what I have found mostly is that they don't have the words, right? They don't sit here like you and I talk about it and like we're like the paradigm shift and the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse and the full moon. And they're not talking about it like that. But when you listen to the things that they're saying and
Mhm.
even the advice that they're seeking out, like where they're looking for help. I know someone in my life who has been religious adverse and spirituality adverse for as long as I've known the human being, and recently shared that they got a tarot reading. Like, and I was like, oh my God, that's like a big leap from I believe in
Mhm.
nothing
Mhm.
to, so I really do see the shift. I'm experiencing it fully, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. So it's also nice to see that others, even who aren't in this space, are also coming along with us.
Yeah, and I think that that is what's happening is like just more and more people are feeling it. And so some people don't have, like you said, the language to talk about it, to talk about what they're feeling and maybe kind of skeptical of it, but they're starting to feel it. And I think there's a lot more openness to it. And one of the ways that that happens is people like us who are out here just like talking about it and talking about our experiences in a way that's relatable. Like we're just normal people, but we've just decided that we are open to this and we're going to be receptive and see where it takes us, essentially. And I think that just that understanding and acknowledgement that that's okay to do and that there are people doing that will help spread the message and let other people see that, this is a path and that it's totally okay to follow this. And it's so funny too, because you said that. And then when I was saying the thing to my husband about the full moon and the kids and all of that, I always like preface it with like, I know you don't believe in any of this, or like, I know you think this is all a bunch of crap, whatever, but this is what I've seen. This is what I noticed. And this was the first time. It's so funny. This is the first time he said, for the record, I don't have an official stance on it. I'm not saying that it isn't a thing. I'm not saying that it is, but like I don't have an official stance on whether or not this is actually the way it works or what's happening. So I was like, hmm.
Looks like we are getting to the other side.
You might be
Looks
open to
like
it.
you've been touched.
I might be converting you in some way. Maybe I'm rubbing off a little.
I do believe though that that tends to happen. I think for the longest time it was like this feeling of otherness because whether I've had the language or the awareness or, for it, have always kind of had this belief like there's something bigger than us. And it's not, I don't believe that there's a guy sitting up there who's like telling you this is how you're supposed to live your life, sort of thing. And I think for a long time, people could just like feel how different I felt about it.
Mhm.
But honestly, the people around me now, I think it's more like, oh, maybe she's onto something.
So that was actually what the podcast that I was listening to, that's what it was really about. It was essentially this idea that part of why we're here really is just to sort of follow our own like light and then basically because of that shine our light for other people to see in the way that we're showing other people like this is a possibility, this is an option. And her whole focus was as we go through some like pretty tumultuous times in our country to focus on staying in this place and staying out of the negative rhetoric that is so easy to fall into and is all around us and is very, very loud at this point. To remember that if you want to truly have impact and you want to change the trajectory and you want to help people, it is going to be so much more impactful to be in your light and stay in this place and be an example of a life and a mindset and a energy that is possible that just isn't involved in that, just isn't interested in going down that rabbit hole, that just isn't participating in the negativity that
Right.
is so prevalent. And I'm like, yes, that is 100%. And when you think about it, and I was talking to someone else about this too yesterday, this person was saying, there's just so many people who need healing and they need truly just healing in their lives. And it just really occurred to me and was a really strong feeling like, yes. And how we help them to get to that place of healing is to be who we're meant to be this light, to be this vibe that exists in the same space as them so that they can see it, so they can become aware of it, and so that they know that it is a possibility. And so the more of us who are able to be that way as we move through this time, the more people will be able to see that and see that there are people who are not participating, who are not going back and forth, who aren't spreading this negativity and hate and all those things. And I think that that is so incredibly powerful. And it was just like, yes, this makes so much sense because this is the way. Participating and trying to talk to them and really like fight, get in that fight and get in the back and forth is not helpful. That's not the way forward. And so I was like, yes, this is it. This makes so
Yeah.
much sense.
Yes. And it's so true because not to call it right out as we're trying to avoid doing, but I really believe that no matter what happens right now, that it's going to be chaotic one way or another.
Yes.
And I do believe, like you said, that it is the power of holding that light, walking with that light within,
Mhm.
and just shining it everywhere we go. In everything that we do, being an example of not participating in that is how we're going to get to the other side of it. Because the chaos is here. The chaos is here. The chaos is happening. And no matter what happens, I don't think the chaos is going to slow down. So, how do we affect change? How do we make sure that whatever part we're doing is going to be different than what they're doing? And that is by holding our light within and shining it so that hopefully our neighbor next door can see that light and we can somehow positively make the impact, even if it's a tiny little impact. Sometimes that's all you need to infiltrate to get someone to look at things differently, to understand that the back and forth is not the way that we're going to make a change.
Mm-mm.
That is just giving more energy into that, what we don't want. And so I love what you shared because I do 100% agree that that's what needs to happen. And I also agree that people like you and I, this is what we've been prepared for.
Mhm.
I believe that this is what we've been prepared for. I truly believe with every fiber of my human being that, for example, this is why I'm back in a corporate environment, that this is why I'm around the people that I'm around, that the social gatherings that I'm being
Mhm.
pulled to, that this is the why, is because I feel like I was in boot camp for the last year and a half to be ready and to be able to hold that space and walk with my light within, no matter what is going on outside of me.
Mhm.
Hold my light so that I can be the change that we want to see as a collective. And with that being said, I don't want to say that. I mean, I do believe actually that we are pretty amazing, superior human beings, but I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say that as light workers, we came here to do this. In my belief, this is part of our soul missions. I believe that part of our purpose is being part of the change that we want to see. And doing that is as simple as living our lives. Like, that's just what I do. Like, I have a normal job and a normal life and kids and all the normal things. And it's just holding my light and not allowing the outside noise to come inside of me to join that negative rhetoric that's going on. Instead, I now have been trained enough, which is the way that I look at it, basically through a lot of pain and releasing and becoming aware and being able to be in touch with my highest self at all
Mhm.
times and being guided by my intuition versus outside noise to be able to help others see that there's a way out, because I think some people can't even see that. And just by simply living our lives, I believe
Mhm.
that a
Mhm.
lot of us, not just you and I, but a
Mhm.
lot of us
Mhm.
light workers and healers, that's
Mhm.
what we're here to do. This is the time. This is what the training has been for.
Mhm. Yeah, this is it. Totally agree.
That's a wrap for this episode.
We hope you found some inspiration, a helpful tip, or maybe just a good laugh.
Remember, amazing human, you are not alone on this path to connect with your inner wisdom and the universe.
To stay connected and keep the conversation going, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if this episode resonated with you, share it with your friends, family, or anyone who might find value in it. Until next time.